Medford, Oregon is not the most amazing place on earth. No, that title actually belongs to Disneyland. But if that's not your jam, then you may actually really love Medford, Oregon, because we don't have any of that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you what we do have, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I know you've already seen all those videos out there that paint this rosy picture and tell you how amazing Southern Oregon is. But now it's time for you to get the truth, because you're probably sitting there wondering, what are the pros and cons of this place? Is there some sort of big secret that you don't know about? Is there something that's going to be an absolute deal breaker that's going to cross living in Medford, Oregon right off of your list of the potential places you might want to relocate to? Maybe. But you're going to find that out on this video right here, so get comfy and let's get to it. Pro number one is the weather, and this is something we are just known for in Southern Oregon. Even in Grants Pass, there's a sign across the street that says, "It's the climate, been there forever," and it's the truth. We have a really, really fantastic climate here with nice warm summers, you could even call them hot summers, and nice cool winters, okay? We get normal days in the summers are in the 90s, and we'll get into the hundreds every now and then, and in the winters and normal days in the 40s, and we'll probably get into the 30s and 20s even as the lows, but relatively mild in those cases. We're not really getting the big extremes like you're gonna find in other areas of, you know, the desert and stuff like that, where you get really, really hot and really, really cold. But we also don't get a lot of rain, just 20 inches of rain per year here in Southern Oregon, and just a few inches of snow every single year, and that typically melts off in the same day. So definitely not going to be a place where you have to worry about shoveling snow or anything like that, or driving in the snow if you don't like that. It's very rare, only a few days of snow a year, and really a few inches. We also get around 200 days of sunshine per year, which is fantastic. There's a lot of great things that come with that, and we'll talk more about that here momentarily. But one of the not so great things that comes with that is that it can lead to some smoke, and we're going to get into that later, because believe it or not, smoke is not something that is a pro. It's not in this section yet, so stay tuned for that, because we'll talk about that momentarily. Moving on. Well, let's hold on for just 1 second, because I think I got ahead of myself here and I didn't even introduce myself to you, okay? I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty, and if there's anything I can do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can call or text me at the information right here, 541-954-7758, or my email address is down in the description of this video, and you can shoot me an email that way if you prefer. Now, let's continue. Pro number two is the cost of living. So the cost of living in Medford, Oregon is about 6% above the national average. And when you think about that in comparison to the rest of Oregon, Oregon as a state overall is about 14% above the national average. And some of the other cities in Oregon, like Eugene, are about 6% above the national average. Bend is about 27% above. Portland is about 30% above. And you also have some areas like Grants Pass and Oregon Coast that are actually right around the national average or even below it. So we kind of have a whole wide variety, but overall about 14% above the national average for the state, and Medford's on the lower end of that at only 6% above the national average. I want to share how that compares to some other areas around the West Coast, just for a point of reference, because you have areas like the Bay Area. San Francisco is 145% above the national average. San Jose is 130%, LA 62%, and Seattle is 58% above the national average. So if you're in one of those areas, you're spending 60 to 150% above the national average, going down to 6% above it really is a pretty solid saving. I actually made a video all about how much does it cost to live in Southern Oregon, and I go into even more detail about the cost of living and give you better examples with housing and all those sorts of things. So be sure to check that one out next if you'd like to. Pro number three is things to do outside. There's just so much to do outdoors here in Southern Oregon, from hiking and biking to golf and hunting and fishing and kayaking and rafting and boating and camping and frisbee golf and drinking wine in a vineyard. Okay, that's outside. That's an outside activity, you know. Gardening, parks, outdoor concerts. I don't know what else. Did I miss something there? There's so much to do outside. If you like the outdoors, this is your spot, okay? If you like the indoors, there's also plenty to do indoors. We have all sorts of art galleries. We have the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. We have the Criterion Theater. There's all sorts of places like that to watch plays or performances. There's wine tasting indoors if you'd like to sit inside and taste some wine. There's breweries, there's shopping, movie theaters, bowling, all sorts of stuff. But that's really a big theme of the community and the culture around here is the outdoor activity. People just love being outside and enjoying the weather. And as a matter of fact, last weekend was Easter weekend. I went out to the city of Central Point with my family, and they had a huge Easter egg hunt that was put on by the city of Central Point that was so much fun and beautiful weather. And it's just a great example of the things that are available to do out here as a family, or to go out and just enjoy, and see everybody else really enjoying their time. But really, it was just a lot of fun and a good example of the types of events that are available around here in the various communities that you can take advantage of with the great weather and the beauty outdoors. Don't worry though, we are almost to the bad stuff. I know that's what you're sitting there waiting on, okay? And there could be a decent chance that once we get into that bad stuff, the cons on this list, there might be a deal breaker in there that makes you want to just scratch Medford, Oregon right off your list. So bear with me for just another second, because the next information that we're going to get into on the pro side of things may actually save your life. That's because pro number 4 is the medical scene here in Southern Oregon. Okay, we have top-notch healthcare available, which is featuring the Asante Health System, which is a top 15 hospital system in the entire country and has been for the last 10 years or so. Okay, we have 4 hospitals in Southern Oregon, from Ashland to 2 of them in Medford to another one in Grants Pass, 4 of them across the area, including the largest, which is Asante's Rogue Regional Medical Center, which is in Medford. It just underwent a massive renovation and added a huge amount of square footage with all sorts of new facilities and technology and great stuff. But it's a level 2 trauma center there, and it's a regional hospital that serves over 600,000 people across Southern Oregon and Northern California, all the way to the coast and even over into Eastern Oregon in parts. So lots of great things happening at the medical scene here, including some really, really good specialists like those at Southern Oregon Orthopedics and the Medical Eye Center, which I've personally had really good experiences with. And there's many, many others that are very well respected and renowned specialists across Southern Oregon. So the medical scene here is very positive. It's definitely one of our strengths, and it creates a lot of jobs. So if you are somebody who works in the medical field, there is a lot of opportunity here for those types of jobs as well. Pro number 5, and our last pro, is the location. Okay, so I would challenge you to find a place in the Western United States that has the same combination of good weather, low cost of living, outdoor recreational opportunities, and convenient location. Okay, I'll wait. Go ahead. I'm actually not going to wait, because if I was waiting, we'd be here for a very long time, because I've already done the research, and spoiler alert, it really doesn't exist. There's nowhere else that I know of that has that combination of things that I just mentioned, okay? But what's so good about our actual location here, right? So we have the natural beauty with the mountains and the rivers and the lakes and all those sorts of things, which is great. So that creates a really nice environment visually to look at and creates a lot of things to do. But we also are fortunate enough to not be part of the coastal range and that whole side of things, which is just too wet, right? But we're also not in the high desert area, which is just too dry. Not enough rain, a lot of dust, a lot of wind and stuff over there. Another great thing about our location is it's just so easy to get to other parts of the Northwest, all right? So you could hop in the car and you could be over at the Oregon coast in just a couple hours. You could be eating clam chowder and fish and chips in no time, or you could go the other direction. You could be over in the high desert in Eastern Oregon in a few hours, going over there hunting or do camping, whatever you like to do over there. You could be in Eugene in a few hours, Portland in 4 hours, down to the Bay Area in 5 or 6 hours, Sacramento, you can be in Tahoe 5 or 6 hours. There's so many places that you can be in just a short, a half a day's drive. And if you want to go further than that, we have our airport here, which has a lot of different flights to big hubs like Seattle and Salt Lake City and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Portland and Phoenix and all sorts of options there. So it's very easy to get away if you'd like to get out of here, and that's one of the great things about our location. Now, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff, okay? The cons, the bad, the ugly, the secrets of Southern Oregon that nobody wants to tell you because they don't want to scare you away. So are you ready? Con number 1, first and foremost, is the growth. Okay, Southern Oregon, Medford in particular, is growing like crazy. It is one of the fastest growing cities in Oregon, really the fastest of any substantial size, growing faster than Bend, Eugene, Portland, Salem, Corvallis, all those cities. Medford is outpacing all of them. With that comes construction, comes infrastructure improvement, comes congestion, could possibly lead to changes in the culture, okay? But that seems like that probably would take a little bit more time. So you might find though that maybe your favorite swimming hole might have somebody else at it. Maybe your favorite fishing hole might be taken by somebody before you get there, okay? Your favorite camping spot might require you to reserve it a couple more days in advance, okay? Whatever the case is, growth can be a turnoff to some people. It can also be viewed as very, very positive for the other things that it creates, like jobs and just overall, growth in an area. But the question that I want you to think about is, why is it growing so fast? And it's because the secret is out. It's because of that combination of things that we just talked about, being the great location and the low cost of living and the really incredible weather. All those things are attractive to people, and it's growing for a good reason. So keep that in mind. Con number 2 is the politics. And what I mean by the politics is that it is a conservative part of the state, but in a very, very liberal state. So I don't know what your personal politics are, but this is something that you're going to hear from the locals, okay? And the title of this video is the real pros and cons from a local. So I need to tell you what the locals are actually going to say. And a lot of the locals here are conservatives, and so they're going to say that the con is that you are in a very liberal state. So that's just something that is worth knowing. A lot of the liberal drive here in Oregon is because of the bigger cities up north, Portland, Salem, Eugene, those types of places. And what that creates is just a feeling for a lot of the rest of the state, Southern Oregon and Eastern Oregon, where you kind of like don't have much of a voice at the state level, okay? And so that can make people feel like maybe their vote doesn't count or those sorts of things. But it's really kind of limited to the state level, if I'm being honest, because when you look at the Jackson County government, it has 3 Republican commissioners, okay? And the various cities around the area and other local, small governments, they're largely the same, very conservative base. And the exception to that is the city of Ashland, which is very liberal. So that's one of the things that, a lot of people could look at as a con, but could also very easily be looked at as a pro if you were to think about it from the standpoint of there's really, a place for everyone here in Southern Oregon, okay? Whether you're very conservative, you'd feel comfortable pretty much anywhere. If you're very liberal, there's places like Ashland where you'd feel very, very at home with a lot of like-minded people. So you can view that as pro, con, whichever way you'd like to, but since, like I said, this is a locals viewpoint, I'm going to give you the locals saying, which is that this would be a con. Now that I've violated pretty much every rule about talking politics and business, let's move on. But really, where else are you going to get the truth like that, okay? And the next one that I'm going to tell you about, though, is one that I feel like can actually be that deal breaker for some people, and that is con number 3, which is the fog and the smoke, okay? And if I'm being honest with you, the fog is really just a non-issue in my opinion, okay? I've heard a lot of people complain that there's some foggy days, but in reality, I don't know where you could go where you're not going to have some foggy days. So if you are afraid of having a little bit of fog here or there, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe move to the desert or something. I don't know if they still have fog in the desert, but that seems like a place where you'd have minimal fog. But we really don't have that much fog. It's nothing like the Bay Area or anywhere like that. So I don't want to even really go into a lot of detail on fog because I don't think it's really that much of a problem. Smoke, on the other hand, that is the thing that we get a lot of people talking about in the comment section, and in addition to the next thing that I'm going to tell you about. But smoke is definitely something that you need to be talking about and thinking about, okay? Smoke obviously comes from wildfires, and wildfires happen, right? They happen across Northern California, they happen across Southern Oregon, and the smoke gets carried by wind, and a lot of the times in the summers, we get a lightning event that comes through Northern California or Southern Oregon in those big national forests down there, the Sixes, the Siskiyou, all those different areas in the coastal range. They get a dry lightning storm that comes through, starts a lot of fires, and then we have these winds that kind of come from the southwest and can blow that smoke right up into Southern Oregon. And that can happen, and it can also not happen. All right, there's been plenty of years where it has not happened. Plenty of years where we've been blessed with wonderful amounts of sunshine and are able to get out there in the nice, clean, clear mountain air and have a wonderful summer with really minimal to no smoke at all. But again, there's times where it can be the opposite of that, where we can have weeks of pretty socked in smoke, and it's pretty miserable when that happens. The air quality can be pretty poor, and that does happen from time to time. But I want to be very clear that it's not something that happens all of the time, okay? And so when you see those studies that say, oh, Cave Junction, Oregon had the worst air quality in the United States, Sure, okay, they probably did last year because there was a huge fire that was, 10 miles away from the town or 20 miles away from the town, and all the smoke just sat there in that valley. So yeah, like they had really, really poor air quality for that summer. But if you look at what did they have over the winter? What did they have, the year before? Like those types of things. I think that's the context that's missing. So just be aware that smoke is not something that happens every single year. It's not a guarantee. And the nice thing about it is it's easy to get away from. Okay, if you don't like the smoke, you can look at a map of where the smoke is coming in from. All right, you can see that they even put it on the Weather Channel for you. You can see that and you can go get away from it. So maybe you go over to the coast and you go get some of that clam chowder or fish and chips, or maybe you go to Eastern Oregon and get out of the way up there. Maybe you go up into the mountains and go pick some huckleberries. Whatever it is, you can get away from the smoke, okay? And so that is a really, really nice thing about it, is it's very easy and fun to get away from, because you can even go over to the dunes, go ride quads, go camping, go do something, go make it a fun weekend, right? And that's one of the things, like I said previously, we're fortunate enough to have that as an option here to be able to go get away to so many nice places. Con number 4 is the cannabis industry, okay? And that is one of the downsides of having all this great sunshine, is that it apparently is really good for growing pot, okay? And that's what has happened a lot in the past. The cannabis industry, fortunately, in my opinion, really started tanking right around 2020, 2021. It really went downhill a lot, okay? But prior to that, it was really bad. There was a lot of cannabis growing going on, pot, hemp, whatever, was being grown all over the place. It seemed like pretty much any property that had some flat ground and water rights, and a lot of the people didn't even care if it had water rights or not. They would just do it anyways. But that was part of the problem. Okay, people weren't following the rules. People were creating messes. They were creating these, places that just were very unsightly. It was bringing in a lot of, sketchy people. And all of those things were just not, great for the area. Okay, but that did exist without a doubt. Like that was definitely a problem, and it was creating, smells and all those sorts of things, especially during the harvest time, where you drive down the road, it smells like you ran over a skunk every 5 seconds. But the problem is not as bad as it was, okay? Like it is nowhere near the levels that it was, in the 2010s, where it was just really like in the heyday. Nowadays, there's still some grows out there. There's still some people doing it, but the prices of that have just gone through the floor, and so it's really hard for anybody to even make a profit on it anymore, and so you just don't see it hardly anywhere, as much as you did back in those days. But it is something that you should be aware of, because you're going to see it in the comment section. There's going to be people saying, oh, the cannabis industry, people are going hemp, growing marijuana, whatever it is, growing all of this stuff, and anyways, it's not the problem it was. Con number 5, and this is the last one, the big one that you're going to see commented about more than anything else, and it is the homelessness, okay? So Oregon in general has a pretty high homeless population. When you look at it, per capita across the state, it's pretty high, okay? And Medford definitely has a noticeable homeless population as well, okay? We're right on Interstate 5, and the state has done some really stupid things over the years to create a situation with really, a lack of affordable housing for the poor, a lack of treatment options for people who need mental health care or who need, drug addiction treatment. And then the state really doubled down on the stupidity with Measure 110, which legalized drug possession. Okay, which I have an important update about here in a second. But they really just created this perfect storm for creating and attracting homeless people. Okay, and it's a very, very sad story and an absolute miserable failure in an experiment of playing with ultra progressive policies like legalizing hard drugs. But there is a silver lining to all this, and that is that the problem is being addressed. Okay, so the Southern Oregon Homeless Summit just recently put out a bit of information that said that the homeless population in Jackson County is actually declining, and I think it said it was down about 10%. So that's great news in my opinion. In addition to that, even more recently, the governor just signed a bill which is going to recriminalize drug possession in Oregon. So essentially offenders will be given a choice of jail for 6 months or a drug treatment program or options to that effect. But we're really, viewing that as a positive thing. Folks are very optimistic that that's going to have a big impact on the homelessness issue, in addition to another bill that the governor just signed that is providing funding for affordable housing projects that are aimed at helping the homeless population. So I'm really, really optimistic about those things. I'm happy to see those things happening. And I think that, a year down the road, or 2 years or 5 years, you're going to see an environment here that's going to look drastically improved versus what you're going to see out there today, or even last year or the year before. So definitely optimistic on those things there. Let me tell you a little secret though. Being a realtor here in Southern Oregon, I get to see a lot of the area. I get to meet a lot of the people and talk to them and hear their stories. There's been some that have been absolutely unbelievable, okay, in my conversations with the locals. And so I wanted to see if I could get some of those types of conversations on camera, and I did, okay? And you can see that right here by watching this video, which is all about when I asked the locals, what do they hate about living in Southern Oregon, okay? I'm Brian Simmons with eXp Realty. Reach out if there's anything I can do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, and I'll see you on the next video.